Welcome to the Grand Prix Project Podcast.
Welcome once again. This is the Grand Prix Project Podcast, reviewing the British Grand Prix. Actually, it is the TISO Grand Prix of the United Kingdom. It's not actually the British Grand Prix. But yeah, most people call it the British Grand Prix, but it's actually Grand Prix of the United Kingdom, right? Or the United Kingdom Grand Prix.
They're trying not to confuse it with Formula One.
Yeah. So it's actually the Grand Prix of the United Kingdom is what MotoGP is. But yeah. With me, your host, Andre. Although I forget the most important part, right? With my co-host,
Sure.
Thanos.
Yeah, you're acting like you can't say, like you don't know my name. Why do I always have to introduce myself?
Man is a fire starter, right? Man says he's got the Infinity Stones.
I have all the Infinity Stones, mate. I'm gonna start throwing moons and planets at people if they talk to me. if they don't talk to me nicely. I mean, I threw a planet at Iron Man and you see how that went. So don't play with me.
All right, yeah, let's get into this weekend. So it's 3 poles on the trot for Fabio Quattararo.
Fabio Quattararo. Right? That's my guy.
And he's doing
his thing. That is my guy.
What I'm taking from right? What I'm taking from that is that as at least Yamaha's finally sorted out their 1 lap pace, right?
Yep.
So their motorcycle is now a legitimate qualifier.
Yep.
Right? Because it's 3 different tracks, 3 different conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a legitimate qualifier, a 1-lapper. So I wouldn't be surprised if he storms to a couple more pole positions this season. Right?
I don't know. I don't think so. Because if you watch the qualifying, before I said that, because the problem Yamaha had last year was, and Fabio said it, once they put the soft tires on, the bike would go nowhere. He had no pace, so he couldn't get that to work. And I believe they're still using the same tires from last year. And they've now, like you said, they've now sorted that out in the last 3 races, because prior to the last 3 races, the qualifying wasn't that great. Sure, he'd make it straight into the final qualifying, which wasn't the case for him last year. Even that he couldn't do. But now he seems to consistently, he's going to be there in the go straight through the final qualifying run. So you're talking about he's always going to be in the top 10, provided he doesn't have an incident in FP2 practice session. But if you go back and you watch the qualifying, Marco's going to put it on pole. Because when Fabio went pole, did his lap, and I think he improved it by about 2.5 tenths. Mark was behind him already. I believe at the end of sector 1, he was almost 1.5 tenths up already. So Mark was on pace to lower, because I believe that's the lap record Fabio set as well. Yeah. What did he do? A 1:57? I believe that's what he did, or I can't remember what he did. But Mark was up behind him on pace to put it on pole, and I think he made a mistake. I believe it's coming out of Cops. I think he made a mistake, and that was pretty much it. Lap over. But either way, Fabio
been on pole.
Yeah, either way, Fabio turned up again. Because I tweeted out from our account, can he get 3 in a row? And boy, he delivered. And he has a thing on his bike on the dashboard. He writes in marker push. So it's like, that's his motivation. And boy, he did do a lap. And I'm happy for him, because Fabio is one of those guys who I think he's one of he's damn good. He's quick. And I think right now, I remember you asking me.
He's the second best on the grid.
Even ahead of Martin? You put him ahead of Martin?
Way ahead of Martin.
Damn. I wouldn't say way ahead of Martin, but I'd put him ahead of Pecco. I definitely put him ahead of Pecco.
I'm gonna tell you my whole thing on Martin, right? Martin isn't who people think Martin is, right? I'm gonna give you my theory on that, right? I rate Fabio is the second best rider on the grid, right? But
even better than Alex.
This is why talent wise, like natural, Quattararo is better than Alex talent wise.
All right,
right? Because the thing is, Alex is quite unique, right? But we come to that. But let's go back to the qualifier. This is how I know. This is why I think Fabio would have still gotten on pole, even if Mark didn't make the mistake. Where Mark was up, that's what it was throughout the weekend. Fabio was lethal in the final sector. That's where he was killing everyone. His final sector throughout the whole weekend was crazy. So that's where he was making up all of his time. Because the thing is, if you notice with Silverstone, right? The motorcycle coming out that final corner, if you're close, the motorcycle that could turn the tightest is going to win.
Okay.
Right, and the Yamaha it's turning now, because if you remember Rins and that Suzuki you could turn that Suzuki in a dime. That's how Mark lost.
That's how he beat Mark that year. And funny enough, Mark has only had one Silverstone once in his entire career.
Because when people was talking about Qatar, I'm like, y'all haven't seen Silverstone? It's one of his worst tracks.
Once,
right? It's one of his worst tracks.
Was that 2014?
However, there's no Silverstone specialist. If you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's had 11 different winners in the last 11 years.
Right. So let's look at it like this, right? So Silverstone, from what I'm gathering and what I'm seeing, right, is also one of those tracks where it's like, it seems like it's like you don't want your motorcycle to be good at Silverstone. Because probably if your motorcycle is too good at Silverstone, it's not going to be good anywhere else. Yeah, it's one of them tracks. Like, if you got a great Silverstone motorcycle, you're probably going to struggle a lot of tracks on the rest of the calendar. Don't ask me why. Don't know why. Right? But yeah, Fabio 3 of 3. I think they've built a motorcycle, and from what I'm understanding and what I'm reading, I think the guys over at I think it was, is it Matt Oxley and Peter Baum? I think it was them that mentioned it. Sorry if I got the reference wrong. But yeah, from what I'm understanding, Yamaha hasn't really done anything to the motorcycle. I think Fabio got to a point where he told him to just leave it and he'll figure it out. But now he's just, with more time, more lap under his belt, he's just figuring it out, and he's getting better. He's starting to understand the motorcycle, right? And as I said, those 1 laps, the Yamaha got the 1 lap. The Yamaha got the 1 lap, right? And so just before we go over in the race, just to say this. But the thing is, right, with Mark, and I hope he doesn't go down that rabbit hole, right? It's I've always realized that he's going to go for pole, but I guess he realized that even if I'm not on pole, my motorcycle is fast enough, right? Because let's face it, that 1 lap is probably the most riskiest thing of the weekend, right? Going for that qualifying lap. Would you agree?
Come again?
Would you agree that going for that qualifying lap is probably the riskiest thing of the week, the whole entire weekend?
Yeah.
Right.
Because that's when you're going all out. Lowest fuel, grippiest tire, you're hanging it all out. Because you need that result.
So the good thing is that the Ducatis are fast enough, right? Whereas even if they're not on pole, they're still able to win the race. Right? Considering everything goes to form, right? But yeah, we're going to get more into this, right? So that's qualifying. Fabio did his thing, 3 on the trot. Hats off to the guy. Fabio is doing to Yamaha what Mark used to do on Honda.
Because who's his teammate again? Is it John Mir?
No, Alex Rins.
Alex Rins, and he ain't doing jack shit on
right
as well. He's not.
So
he's even getting outperformed by Jack Miller. So he ain't really doing shit.
Because if you look at the grid of if you look at, this is why you got to rate Fabio's talent immensely. If you look at the past 10 years, right, the two riders who were put in situations were on motorcycles that were getting put on places on the grid where we're not supposed to be, is really Mark and Fabio. Mark on the Honda and Fabio on the Yamaha. Right? And if you look at, say, this year, like of Ayagora, right? Yeah, he's put the Aprilia certain places, right? But it's not consistent enough to be in that category. Right? Yeah. And then everyone else has always been on Ducatis, right? If you look at KTM, Pedro Acosta did it a couple times last year, right? And that's the thing, right? When you're that guy, and this may sound harsh, but when you're that guy, like Mark is, Fabio is, you put your motorcycles places where it's not supposed to go.
Yep.
Would you agree to that?
Yeah.
Which is why I said I rate Fabio second next to Mark in terms of talent right now on the grid, right? But as I said, we gonna get into that. Let's keep on topic, because
Pecco also all qualified Mark for the first time this year, which again, you thought that was well done to Pecco, but again, I maintain, I think if Mark hadn't made that mistake, Mark would have all qualified him anyway, because Mark literally had his ticket the whole entire season. Mark's pretty much punched Pecco ticket already, so
and Pecco knows that. I don't think he's celebrating a lot because he knows that.
No, Pecco's not going to celebrate that. Pecco wants to beat Mark, but right now how things are, it doesn't look like it's a possibility. So qualifying, could, as I said, because the top four was what? Who was it? Fabio, Alex all qualified. Mark put in a P2, then Pecco P3, and Mark was what, P4, I believe. Mark started P4 or P5.
P4.
P4 he started. So, qualifying was good. I'm happy for Fabio, because it's been 2021, man. It's been a long ass time, and he needed this. Yamaha needed this, because it's showing that the hard work that they're putting in behind the scenes, with all of the concessions that they've been given, is actually starting to bear fruit, and long may it continue. I hope, but we get onto the race, the main race itself at some point.
Yeah.
But come Saturday, the sprint race.
Boy.
Again.
Boy.
What?
Alex whopped up Mark fair and square.
It's not even.
There wasn't any mistake.
I'm not even going to. Don't even get to that part yet. We saw how good that. We saw what the hill that Fabio has to climb against that Ducati in that sprint race on the opening lap. Because when they finished the Beckett's complex and they came onto that back straight, I think it's what's that called? That's the Wellington Straight. The Wellington Straight is the first one after the start. Is it Lovefield? I can't remember the straight, but Fabio came out to that complex and he was like about half a second ahead of Mark. And by the time they got into, I think it's the corner is called Lovefield. By the time they got to Lovefield corner, he was behind Mark. He didn't even get to lead the whole entire lap. Just shows you how powerful that Ducati engine is. It's just like mirror signal maneuver.
Is what I said.
I'm sure Fabio felt demoralized when he saw that happen. Like, yo.
Which is why I said, whilst everyone wants to start from pole, Mark and Alex who's in the title fight, right? They don't need to risk everything on a Saturday because they know they've got the grunt in that Ducati, right? And it's crazy. Their teams are catching up. Like Yamaha, it's not as bad as it used to be a couple years ago, because it's like with every regulation, right? Once the regulation comes to when it plateaus, right? The
rest fully matures.
Yeah, people are going to catch up, right? But let's go into the sprint, because Alex put the beatings on his elder sibling, fair and square. This wasn't where he crashed out in Spain, or where this wasn't I'll let you lead, then I'll catch you. And no, this is, I've experienced running at the front of race now. I can manage races better. I know to manage my pace, and I know what I've got underneath me. So guess what? Catch me if you can.
And it wasn't also about that as well. I think tires came into play as well, because once Mark got past Fabio on that opening lap, I thought, he's going to clear off into the distance, and he's just going to win the race again, like he's pretty much done all of them. He's won the sprints, right?
Yeah.
But that wasn't the case. To see Alex then again breeze past Fabio like he wasn't even in the race, and chased Mark down, past him, and then pull away from him, you kind of like, I think in that moment, I think there was some element of tires in it as well. And I think the factory Ducatis were having problems that weekend.
Oh, so this is what happened.
I think there was issues with that the Ducati this weekend, where it just didn't seem like it wanted to work around this track.
So there's two things at play. Alex was the farm man the whole weekend, not Mark. Mark struggled the whole weekend.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. So there was something,
right?
Because
why I would park it up the tire is because that has always been Mark's. Silverstone has never been a good stomping ground for him, right? He's just always been able to survive at Silverstone, right?
So did Mark come into MotoGP 2013?
Yeah,
2013. Yeah. And he's on. So this is would be year 12, and he's only ever won the race once. So,
yeah. So what happened this weekend with him and Alex? It wasn't tire. It was Alex was just a better rider this weekend. He was the faster rider, right? Because if you talk, is what to that point that you made, right? It happened. It showed on Sunday. Is what you could see is that when it came on to tires, all of them got. When the tire affected one, it affected all of them. So strategy, Alex beat him just on pure, I am faster today. I'm better than you today. Right?
Yeah.
Mark got beat fair and square on Saturday. There's no asterisk to that ass whooping on Saturday that he picked up from his brother. Alex was the farm man for the whole weekend up until the crash. So let's segue into the race, into the main race, right? And start that. So Fabio is on pole, right? Alex Marquez got a better start. The problem that caused him to crash, right?
Who to crash?
Alex. Was the ride-out device, right? Because Silverstone is a tricky one, whereas it's like Le Mans as well. Most racetracks, you get up from the start, you're probably going to come up to like a second gear corner or something like that, right? Third gear.
A slow corner. Where you have to do a heavy braking. So
yes.
Because I think once you brake, it's supposed to pop it back up.
Pop it back up. So in Silverstone, when Alex went for it, he realized that because that's like a fast kink, right?
Yeah.
So once he had to put on a lot of brake to disengage it, and once that happened, he just bottomed out. He's on the floor, no warning, right?
I thought he crashed in the opening lap.
He didn't even make. Yeah. He didn't even finish the first corner.
Yeah, he didn't even make turn one.
Right.
Yeah. I thought because at first they thought it was a cold tire thing that caused him to crash.
Snapped from underneath him trying to disengage that stupid ride-out device, right?
Which they're gonna get rid of for 2027.
They should get rid of it next year. If you ask me.
Yeah, too late for that now.
No, it's
too
not
late for that. Yeah, I mean, most of these bikes are developed around that system, so it's going to be a bit too late to get rid of it.
I don't think it is, because everyone, if you take it away from everyone, stop them from using it, it's just gonna, you know, it's gonna have the same effect on everyone throughout the field, right?
Oh.
But that's neither here nor there. Then Mark goes into the lead as he's trying to do the change of direction. He said he said the first lap he was cautious. The second lap he said, okay, I'm gonna push a little bit more through this kink, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said,
but was he leading? Was he leading on the first the opening lap, or was it Fabio leading?
No, Mark crashed out of the lead.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he said he in his debrief, he said once he tipped it and he picked up Augusta, just with the brake, with him going in a bit faster, using more brake, it just washed out from underneath him.
So it was Augusta wind that basically.
That's what he's saying. Yeah, he
pushed him up.
Like, cause I heard, I think it was Matt Oxley that was saying that, or Peter Bummer was saying that, it's BS, but I'm like, a gust of wind, because he said it didn't affect the other riders behind him, but a gust of wind could just be.
Mm-hmm.
Gust of wind isn't constant, right? Are consistent.
Yeah. So it's just a sudden burst.
Yeah, so it could be a possibility where it only affects one rider, right?
Yeah.
However, did you see when he headbutted the thing?
I mean, the dude's he slid for what? Over 100, I believe over 100 yards.
Yeah,
and because when he crashed, he was doing probably like what? I think they said from like over 100 miles per hour. And you know, when he headbutted the thing, I thought, yeah, was that a smart thing to do? Because you could have jammed your neck or something like that, or anything. And what we've seen with him when he has these sort of crashes, he doesn't let go of the bike.
Yeah, because he's not thinking on the bike.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that's probably a bit dangerous, because again, you're pretty much trapped underneath the bike. Your foot's rubbing on the floor. What if it, you know, something happens and it tips and it twists your ankle, your knee, or something like that? You know, but
that's, you know, and that's the thing with Mark. Those are the risks that he takes and he's willing to take, right? It's like. You've seen riders who you know what, let me not go. How could you throw that in as a caveat later on if we have time?
Mm-hmm.
So even where Alex crashed was a bit dangerous, because if you saw, he ended up hitting the fence, right?
The bike hit the fence.
Yeah, I didn't think the fence too.
I didn't think Alex hit the fence.
Yeah, so he was talking about his debrief. I think he went to the fence too, because now they're saying they need to put gravel there for MotoGP because it's fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so now Mark crashes out. As soon as Mark crashes out, I'm seeing a red flag. So I'm like, what the hell? What happened? Because I'm thinking when they call it red flag, I was thinking that when Alex's bike went all the way to the ear fence, I thought they
wanted to check the barriers.
So now wasn't that. It was Alicia Spargaro, Alicia and Morbidelli.
Morbidelli. Them two don't like each other, man.
Not one bit, right? So
I see Franco pretty much blaming Alex for it, and Alex tweet basically, he just laughed, because if you look at it, Alex's bike basically washed out at the corner, and pretty much what was he supposed to do? He couldn't do anything else.
It was a bike by itself that collected Morbidelli. The bike just went sliding.
Yeah, because Alex was already off on the floor off the bike when it collected Morbidelli, but you know, them two don't like each other anyway. So
red flag. So as it was already cleared up, a lot of people didn't understand it as I tweeted out, because I think you had tweeted, then you realized what was going on. Yeah, as long as you haven't finished more than 3 laps, it's a full restart, so it's a new race.
So, which shows you how lucky the Marquez brothers were.
Whatever side of the bed Alex and Mark slept on Saturday night, they better keep sleeping on it for the rest of the season.
Yeah, because it was so, and just one more lap and both of them wouldn't have been able to take the restart, you know, and has like,
no, Mark would have taken the restart for sure.
No, he wouldn't have. Yeah, if they had done 3 laps, he wouldn't have been able to take the restart.
Because Mark was still on his motorcycle. He didn't leave it. Alex wouldn't have been able to restart. When Mark
yes, you're right.
his motorcycle.
Yes, you're right. Because if he could,
Mark picked up his motorcycle. You pick up your motorcycle, you're back in the pits within 5 minutes.
Yeah. No. I think he would have been, because he would have picked up and he would have rejoined the race, so he would have still completed the lap. So if they had done 3 laps, he would have still been in the race, because by then he would have picked up the bike and started riding again. So provided it didn't start, because he rode it back to the pits. Alex definitely wouldn't have been.
Not restart.
And again, he dodged a bullet right there and then, because I thought, when I saw the red flag, I thought, Mark was out of the race, he's out of the race. But when they said no, they didn't complete 3 laps, that was fine. And they did the quick restart procedure.
Because the thing is, right, this is the thing, right? Also, this is the thing with Mark, right? You remember I said to you at the top of the season, when I said to you, one of the things that Marquez does, he's always thinking about the next move, right?
Mm-hmm.
In terms of, okay, I'm crashing. As long as I could start that bike, even if it doesn't have a foot peg, I'm going to ride it until I get black flagged. All right, Dean, you know what? It's not worth it. I ain't got the pace. I put Alex Coda, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at Coda, can you imagine if the same thing happened at Coda? He picked up the bike, no foot pegs, then there's a red flag. He kept himself in the race, so he gave himself another shot.
Opportunity, yeah.
He's always doing that. One of the things when you notice about Pecco losing the championship to Martin last year, he never picked up his bike after he crashes out. And I'm always looking at this guy like, bro,
but I think the difference here is when Pecco crashes off the bike gets away from him. He's not on the bike. With Mark, he's not letting go of the bike. You see what I mean?
Yeah, but the thing is, right, I guarantee you right now, right, if Pecco was even close, if he was close enough to Mark and he's picking up that motorcycle. And I think he picked it up once this year already. I think where did he pick it up? Right? Pecco never used to
Le Mans.
Never used to pick up motorcycles. He crashed because that's the luxury that he had. He felt like he had to beat in the Martin, right? I'm faster. I could not pick this motorcycle up. I don't know the next 3 races on a Sunday I'm gonna beat you, right? But anyway, the red flag happened. Now we had to restart.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think Mark kept his same bike. I'm not sure.
No.
He changed his bike. Alex kept the same bike because Alex's bike wasn't as damaged. Alex kept the same bike.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, they changed tires.
Did they change tires? Because Mark still went back to the same medium.
Yeah, tires left.
Yeah, but he still went back to the same compound that he originally, the soft medium.
So this is what I'm learning
was it soft medium? Yeah, soft medium, yeah.
This is what I'm learning about the tires. The tires that they race with, that they decide this is the tire I'm racing with, it goes through a whole different process. In terms of like, the tire that they restarted with wasn't prepped for race. It was in the tire warmers and all these stuff. But I think from what I'm understanding, the tire that I actually race with, it's treated in a more delicate way throughout the weekend, right? It doesn't go in the tire warmer as much. There's an intricacy to it. I'm gonna have to find the thing that I read that explains it. So even though they were on the same tire combination, it wasn't as prepped for a race.
But basically it was still the same compound as before.
But it's the same compound but prepped differently.
But why would they not prep that one the same? Because again, it's you're not gonna just prep one set of tires. You're gonna prep both sets of tires in the eventuality that there's an incident.
You would have thought, but that's not what they do. They have this one set of tire that this is the race tires because no one is thinking they're going to crash, right?
Yeah, but hold on. But they don't. When do they make the decision of what tires they got? They only make that. When do they make the decision? Because what I'm trying to say here is
they made the decision Friday.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say here is because you have 2 bikes. Again, you don't know what can happen. You could something could happen on the formation lap, and you have to come in and change bikes. So surely they would prep the tires say the same way for the number 2 bike as they do the number 1.
You would have thought, but that's not what they do. They only have
so then
specific set racing.
So then if there's an incident that you go on a number 2 bike, the tires aren't prepped the same way as the number 1 bike?
No, because they have to think about your number 2 bike is never actually the same as your number 1 bike.
I don't know. I think it's
never
the settings will be the same. The settings will be the same, but you just have a number 1 bike that you're more comfortable riding.
From what I understand, your number 2 bike usually, even on a good weekend, your number 2 bike probably is gonna have wet setting in it for whatever reason, right?
Yeah, but on a weekend like Silverstone, you're not gonna do that. So your number 2
was meant to rain. Silverstone was meant to be a wet weekend.
Yeah, but once they realized that wasn't going to be the case, I'm assuming.
But now I'm just telling you what I read and what from. I think it was thinking that was explaining it. I need to find it. I'm going to post a clip of it. That even though the combinations are the same, basically saying, I think it was Peter Bomington that says not all race tires are the same. Even though they're the same compound, but when they're going, it's not the same. They're prepped different.
No. I think you're saying it wrong. All the tires are the same, but the race tires go through a different treatment in terms of heat cycle than...
No, I didn't say it wrong. That's exactly what he said. Yes, they're medium. So it's like saying they're the same, but they're not the same. That's what he's saying. So whilst you're medium, the one that they prepare the weekend for the race is going to operate totally different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the same tire, the same compounds. But how they put it through the heat cycle of getting it ready for the race is different to how they would do one for practice.
It's a figure of speech. It's not literal. It's a figure of speech. So he's saying they're all the same, but they're not the same. It's just a figure of speech, he's saying. Because you look at them and be like, oh, this is a medium and a soft, this is a medium and a soft. Put them in the same motorcycle, in the same situation, and the one that's prepped more is going to operate better than this one that is unprepped. That's what he's saying. So it's just a figure of speech. It's not a literal saying. Right?
All right, cool.
So now they start the second race. They restart the race. Fabio storms off. Pecco finds himself in second place.
Mm-hmm.
Pecco finds himself in second place.
Well, actually, he found himself in first at the first corner. He was actually leading the race ahead. Yeah, Fabio over.
Yeah,
where did Fabio overtook him?
Mm-hmm. He was in second, but he was in a slow second because Fabio just started to gap him, right? And then
gap him. Fabio was gapping everybody.
And then, but I'm talking about him being in second. And then Mark is trying to come through. Lo and behold, Mark runs wide. Then I saw another motorcycle in the back. I'm thinking, oh, that's one of the Hondas. Pecco Bagnaia. Both of them ran wide.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to come back through the field. Down he went.
Yeah.
And I felt it for him in that moment.
Here's the thing is, here's the thing, and what Pecco's been saying, and he said it. Mark is the one that's making the difference on that Ducati because there's something wrong with the Ducati. He said,
yeah,
the front, he's not getting the same feel from the front. He cannot tell whether he's on a soft, medium, or hard tire.
Yeah, which is going to be worrying.
And that's where his problem is. He doesn't have any feel for the bike. And going, we've heard people say, why not go back to the GP24? What's the point? What's the point?
You know why they can't?
Why?
So, why's the GP? So, it's due to his homologation. Is that the word?
Homologation, yeah.
So, he has to race the engine that he homologated to race the season.
So they homologated the GP25, which means basically he can't go back to it. So he's pretty much stuck.
And from what I'm understanding is that the engine, because you still hear, oh, Ducati's gone in the direction of Marc Marquez. But I'm looking at people like, you're crazy.
They can't go in the direction of Marc Marquez because the GP25 was already in development before Marc joined Marc on board. So
yeah, and then remember at the beginning of the season, what did Pecco say? Marc and I are giving the same feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So the main engine that they were supposed to run, that's the engine that both of them decided, no, put that one to the side. So the engine that they're actually using now was chosen by both Marc and Pecco.
Yeah.
It was not, oh, Ducati going the route of Marc. So just to debunk the foolishness, right?
Yeah. But the thing is, it's Pecco's problem is not an engine problem.
Hold on. Mm-hmm. Yes, it is. Because the way the engine is set up. So from what I'm understanding, the pivot points in the engine it's both a difference in the 2025 frame. Mm-hmm. The crankshaft, I think they said that's different as well. So with that being said, the way maybe how they bolt the engine in the new chassis, along with all the crankshaft that you're using, that's affecting the whole balance of the bike, front feel, just how he's used to feeling the bike. So he's having these issues. And they have a disadvantage that I'm understanding that Pecco is probably facing too, is that he knows what the 24 is supposed to feel like. Marc doesn't.
Yeah.
Right? So the GP25 is going to feel like a whirl to Marc, whilst Pecco having the sweet handling, well-balanced GP24, he's still trying to find that when it's not there.
Exactly. So this goes back to what I was saying a while back when, people are saying he's making excuses, whatever. And I've said, no, it can't be, because again, he knows what a good bike feels like. And if he's telling you, yo, there's something wrong with this bike, whilst everybody else in the team are saying, well, they can't see what's wrong, the data is saying this and the data is saying that. But sometimes you have to stop, look at the data and listen to the rider, right? He's ridden the GP24. So he, like you said, he knows what the GP24 feels like. He knows a good handling bike. And if he's telling you that the GP25 is not working, so there's something wrong, Marc can ride around the problem. Okay, cool. But that doesn't mean what Pecco is saying isn't true.
Pecco said, in his own words, he said Marc could make a tractor go fast.
Yeah. And he said Marc, and give him credit. He's come out and said, look, Marc is the one making the difference on this bike right now. But for him, it's not the right bike. It doesn't feel, he's not getting the same feel. And if he's not, again, it's the same thing like we mentioned in Formula One. If you're not comfortable on something or in the car, you're not going to perform as how you should perform. No matter how much you try and change, because I'm sure he has tried to change his riding style, but he's not getting the results he wants because the problem, and again, that's why he crashed out on Sunday. It was the front end that gave out on him.
And
right? And he can't push, and he has to push you want to be able to confidently push the front into corner, and he can't do that. And that's why he's having these problems.
That you just mentioned, there's only maybe less than 1% of riders and drivers who can do that.
Yeah.
Who cannot feel uncomfortable. Because the thing is that I have to give to Pecco, right? He is, I guess, Pecco knows where he sits. He knows his talents.
Yeah.
He also knows the limitations of his talents, right? Because this is what Pecco faced. And I think what Pecco is facing is not even from Pecco, it's just from fans, right? Are people who just
don't want to think he's not good enough, and he should.
Not only that, it's people who initially were saying they're trying to put him in the category of Marc, right? To whereas Pecco himself knows that I may not be the talent of Marc to do these things, to ride around these issues, to still make this go fast. But what Pecco is saying, if all things are equal,
and the bike is how I want it to be, he can match Marc.
I could do damage, right?
Yeah. So I think I genuinely think he can.
And that's what makes the difference. So whilst Marc is this person who could adapt and ride around situations, I don't think there's ever been a rider who could change riding style throughout a race like Marc Marquez. We've never seen it, to be honest. If we're being honest about it.
Look at it this way. Mark is riding this GP25 and saying, yo, this is the best bike I've ever ridden in my entire life.
Yeah.
But he has never ridden the GP24. So imagine if he had written the GP24, what he would have said. So Pecco's written every iteration of the Ducati.
Yeah.
Right? So he knows when Ducati builds a good bike. And he's pretty much telling them, yo, the GP25 is not a good bike. You cannot use Mark. I don't think you can use Mark as the barometer for this. Because again, Mark is moving from the GP23 to the GP25. Pecco knows what the GP24 feels like. He knows everything. And if he's telling you that the GP25 is not it, there's issues with it, I think it's fair that I think he has earned that right for people to actually kind of like, you know what? Maybe he has a point.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, because even with that, Pecco still would have had an issue, right? The difference.
No, we're not disputing. We're not disputing. I think if there was no issues with the bike, like you said it earlier, right? If all things being equal, surely he doesn't have Mark's talent. But Pecco is not this bad.
I'm not comparing to Mark. I'm talking about even with the Pecco, there's still issues that Pecco needs to fix, even when he had a perfect motorcycle.
You're talking about what you're talking about there. Then right. Is about the whole sprint. Thing.
Yeah, you have to speak about the whole thing. You can't.
Yeah, but that's a different argument. That's a different argument because even with the sprint situation, okay, he wasn't the best on sprints, but on a Sunday he would make up for that. But what you're seeing here is he can't even make up for it on a Sunday.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So ultimately, and this is where Pecco, when you talk about Pecco, right, is with a perfect motorcycle as a GP24, he still had certain issues with it, right? So he wasn't even complete on a GP24, if you ask me, right? He was never a complete rider on a GP24, right? But as I said, no, because you can't be complete if you couldn't, if you struggled in the sprint on the best bike MotoGP.
Yeah, but again, that was a shorter distance race, and we understand that. But even in those situations, he would still be. He won a couple sprint races and he was on the podium consistently. No, that's not the case we're having here with the GP25. Yeah, he's struggling. Again, you can struggle with the sprint because again, the whole thing with the fuel tank and etc., whatever, which we're saying it probably shouldn't be because they've been doing sprint races, I don't remember for how long. But he would make up that difference on a Sunday. With a longer race where he has more information, etc., he'd make that up. But now you're seeing on a Saturday and a Sunday, the performances are relatively the same.
Yeah, I don't know. As I said, the issue is, and he also said it that he needs to figure it out because the bike seems like there's nothing they could do to fix it. Right?
Yeah, I think this year
there's nothing they could do to fix it.
I think he just has to focus on next year. I mean, maybe they'll get it right. Maybe they'll figure something out because I think we still have a long way to go in the season. Maybe they'll figure because it's 24 races they have or 22? Yeah. I believe it's 22 races they have this year. So, and we've had 7? I think we've had or 8. So he still has a long way to go in the season. So maybe they'll figure something out, which is why the Jerez test after the race. 2 weeks ago, I believe it was, or 3 weeks ago, was so important, but he didn't find anything there. So,
I don't.
Let's see what happens
the rest of the season. Because if the issue is just how the engine is bolted, the chassis, the crankshaft, and the engine, there you can't fix that. Yeah,
because again, the crankshaft, right, how it's bolted might change the whole center of gravity of the bike.
Yep.
Right, and that could be what's could also affect him. How it rotates in the engine as well. That could maybe it's giving a vibration that they probably can't even detect. I don't know. We don't know. But if Pecco is saying something, there's something wrong with the bike, I think people shouldn't dismiss what he's saying.
I don't think people are just fully dismissing him. People are just saying at some point, bro, as a top rider, you got to also figure out how to ride around. When it comes down to changing your riding style, you as a rider, right? So now you know what you've got. You got this motorcycle. You know it's a fundamentally flawed motorcycle, right? No one is saying you have to be Marc Marquez, right? What people are saying is that, hey man, same issue. 3 years you still haven't started out the sprint. Now you're having these issues. At what point do you as a rider start to change the way you ride? Change the way you do stuff in order to compensate. Even if it's not going to have you win races, but at least make you consistent.
Yeah, but here's the question. Who's saying he hasn't changed his riding style? Who's saying he hasn't tried to do things differently, but the outcome is still the same? Because if you look at his crash, he was as surprised as anybody else how he crashed because he wasn't pushing. But the front just washed out on him. It was literally, it just like, he was so surprised at like what happened. When you saw him in the garage, he looked like he was about to cry because he was so surprised and like, look, that's literally don't know what happened.
I've ever seen Pecco. Since I've been watching Pecco race, that's the most stone-faced I've ever seen. That's the most I've ever seen.
He looked so lost, like, yo, I don't know what happened. I wasn't pushing and the bike just gave way on him. It did the same. Well, again, in Le Mans, that was a different thing. He pretty much got taken off. But he looked like, and again, Pecco isn't really a crasher. Let's be honest. The most Pecco crashed in a season was it 21? I believe it was on parts of 21 and parts of 22. Was the most he ever crashed out in seasons. He's not a crasher. I feel for him because I wanted him to give Marc a good run. You know what I mean? I didn't expect that he was gonna beat Marc, but I wanted him to show people that, yo, I'm just as good. I'm good. So this idea to think that, you know, it's because of the bike or whatever.
I'll take good. I wouldn't take just as good. I'll take good.
Yeah, exactly. Slip of the tongue. Just to say, look, I am good. I can go toe to toe with Marc. You know what I mean? If he comes out at the end, then he comes out at the end. But at least I know I went to. That's not the case this year, and I feel for him because you can literally say in him he wants that challenge. He's welcomed that challenge. But he cannot give that challenge because, again, there's something fundamentally wrong. It's kind of like with Ferrari. There's something fundamentally wrong with that Ferrari, but they can't seem to tell you what it is.
Yeah. All right, man. Let's see how this season progress. You know, as I said, Marc and Alex, they it's crazy how the luck went because initially Pecco would have picked up the luck because they both crashed out.
Yeah, Pecco would have likely finished on the podium.
Yeah, and then in the second, the luck went the opposite way. Pecco crashed out and finished 72 points deficit.
But here's the thing. But who said he probably wouldn't have still crashed out in the race anyway?
Yeah, because all right, and so we know we haven't even got to the race winner because we're just going to get these stuff out of the way. All the Ducati struggled on the medium tires. It looks like the soft tire was the way to go.
Yep.
Right? They all struggled on this medium. Every single one of them struggled. Kudos to Marc to battle back to get a podium out of that.
Yep. Because I think he fell down to what? At one point he was down to 7th, I believe he was.
Yeah, it was way down there, right? And he had to push back.
Yeah, I don't think he was that far from down. I think he was probably 7th or 8th.
When he and Pecco ran wide, he dropped a few positions as well.
Yeah, so I think he dropped about 4 or 5. So and at that time he was running what? P2?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was running P2. So he dropped maybe 5. So I think he probably fell down to 7th or 8th is what he fell down to. But
it took him a while to the field.
Yeah, but let's talk about the man of the moment Fabio Quattararo, because
is he the man of the moment, or is it Bezzecchi is the man of the moment?
Nah. Fabio Quartararo is the man of the moment, dude. There's no way Bezzecchi gets man of the moment. No way, no how. Not on the face of this planet.
I'm just
not
saying.
WhatsApp. Nah, dude. You can never say Bezzecchi was the man of the moment because Fabio, once he got past Pecco, going on to the Wellington Straight, I thought the Ducati was just going to blow by him, but he didn't. He held it. And by the end of the lap, that first lap, he was over a second ahead of everybody.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, is this tires going to last the entire race?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like, he was pushing the tires. Or I think the plan was for him to push it, build as big a gap as he possibly can, and then hang on for the rest of the race.
Yeah.
And then, if they overtake him on the last lap and win, then so be it. But that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
If you looked at his lap time, he was consistently lapping faster than everybody. And when Bezzecchi finally moved up got past, because he had already passed Pecco and Mark. When he got past the likes of Jack Miller, Zarco, and he got up into P2, there were times we took like maybe half a second out of Fabio, but I think at that time Fabio was just managing his race.
Yeah.
He had the pace, and when he needed to pick it up, he could match Bez's time. And I thought, yep, he's going to end that basically 3.5 year drought of not winning a race. And then, bro, dude, I tell you what, I'm not even going to lie, bro. My heart sunk when the cameras cut to him and showed him, I was like, I couldn't even say anything. Because I was thinking to myself, what the hell happened? How did this happen?
Unnecessary technology strikes.
Bro, dude, I felt his pain when you saw him, when he finally pulled over on the side. And I think that was on the Hamilton Straight. He pulled over. And you saw him bent over, punching the ground. I think you could hear him also screaming. Because I'm like, yo, of all the people this could happen to, it's this guy. Why? And I mean, he did everything right up until that point. You listen to his interviews like, yo, I had no problems in the race. I was managing my pace. Whenever Bez went fast, I could go fast as well. It was an easy win, and to see him get robbed like this, and again get let down by your machinery. I tweeted it felt like Lewis and Malaysia 2016. You remember when engine blew and he screamed out, no. I think that's what Fabio was screaming in his helmet. And right then I was like, yo, oh my God. Because if he had won that race, it would have been vindication for all the people that said he shouldn't have re-signed with Yamaha. But he showed faith in them and he stuck with them, and they finally gave him something that he could compete with. Because I think he could have won Le Mans had he not crashed out. Because you saw, and I think this is where, you mentioned earlier that Yamaha is now giving him a bike that he can qualify on. But I think it's back-to-back races now you've seen where he has had the pace in the races. I don't know, it's not back-to-back. He had the pace in Jerez, but again, he just didn't have the power to hold off the two Ducatis. But he had the pace.
But not winning pace, though.
No.
He's got a better bike. I don't think he has a bike that's going to compete for wins every weekend right now.
No, but what I'm trying to establish here is we're seeing a consistency from him in qualifying and in race pace. In Jerez, the bike was quick in qualifying and race. In Le Mans, the bike was quick in qualifying and race. And this weekend, it was the same thing as well.
So if you listen to Fabio's views on the bike for the past however long, he said he always had a good motorcycle to race. He said once he gets into clean air where he could run his lines, he's okay. He could be fast. But when he was qualifying down where he was down in the dungeon, he couldn't do nothing with it.
Yeah, but I think even if he could have qualified better in those previous years, the bike wouldn't have been fast enough to even challenge for podium. What I'm trying to say
I'm going off what he says from his mind. He said, I've always had a bike where if I was closer to the front, I could run my lines and I can be fast. I can compete. That's his reason.
Yeah, but fast in what sense? Fast in the sense that
be fast and compete. He said once the Yamaha get a chance to run its lines, it's a super fast motorcycle. He said he just needs to get further up the grid. And based on those words, and now we're seeing him qualifying up the grid, it rings true, you know? And those are his words. Those are not my words. That's what he's always said. I just need to be further up the grid. I think I have a motorcycle. If I get to run my lines and mind my own business, I'm going to be fast and I can compete. And I think we're seeing that. Because as I said, they said they haven't done much to the bike.
Yeah, I don't think that Yamaha could have competed with the GP24 last year.
The guy that's riding the motorcycle is saying,
yeah, come on, bro. He can say that. He's gonna say that. But we know if you look at that GP, you're telling me that Yamaha, even if it qualified up the top end of the grid, could have competed with the GP24?
What do you see as compete? Do you see competing is not only winning the race? You know that, right?
Bro. Come on, we know. Come on, man. Let's not be
exactly.
We know
what what he's saying that he could be the direct motorcycle behind the Ducatis, basically. Then, if he could qualify further up the grid, right? He's beating the Hondas. Is basically what he's saying. He's beating the Aprilia, and he's probably going to beat the KTM's.
Yeah, but last year he was doing that,
right? And he probably could beat a couple Ducati riders.
Yeah, but when you're talking about compete, his type of compete he's talking about is not with the likes of the Aprilia, the KTMs and the Hondas. He's talking about more like competing with the Ducatis.
Yeah.
And we both know that Yamaha for the last 2 years can never compete with the Ducati. Never.
Right. It's not going to beat them in a straight dogfight. All I'm saying to you is that he's always said if he could get to the front of the grid and run his own lines, he's got a fast motorcycle. I'm just saying what he says. Jack Miller come around and said it recently as well. The Yamaha is fast if we get to run our own lines, right? I'm just reporting the news, right?
Yeah,
basically, what he's saying is that my motorcycle was not always, because people thought that Yamaha was just a dog of a racer, and he's saying no, it's not really a dog of a racer. It's just that I'm qualifying by. We don't have a good qualifying motorcycle, but if I get a motorcycle that I could qualify with well, I could be more competitive then, right? And if he's saying that, bro, I just got to take his words for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that that Yamaha was ever good enough to compete. But if that's what he said, then that's what he said. But anyway, going back to the race, I think he was the star of the weekend, and I felt like that was a bit. He didn't deserve that. How his race ended. I think worse he deserved was a podium.
Yeah.
That's the worst result he deserved, was a podium. But a win was definitely his. That win was his. And, to lose it like that, your machinery let you down. It's kind of like, that was a kick in the teeth. And, I felt for him. But you see all of the post-race videos and, he's trying to put on a brave face, but there was a video I saw where he pretty much broke down and crying in the press conference because reflecting on it, that shit
acting
hurts.
about hope.
Yeah, that shit hurts. Yeah. So, and Bez was there, because Bez was good over the weekend as well, because I think he took a podium in the sprint race as well. So he had a good weekend. He took the win, and it was funny once he won the race, the guy that runs Aprilia came out and said, this one is for Jorge to prove that our bike can win races. So,
Yeah, we always know that Aprilia could win probably 1 or 2 races a year. That's nothing.
This year?
Huh?
Did we think they could win one this year? Let's be honest.
If you look at the history, you're not surprised by Silverstone. That's what I'm saying to you. If you look at the history,
but how many times have they won at Silverstone in the last 11 years?
They've always been as you just said. If Fabio didn't have his issue. It's a second place. And you remember when Maverick chased down Bagnaia a couple of years ago? Where was that? Silverstone. I think Aleix won it. So the Aprilia has always been a good motorcycle at Silverstone. It's always been a competitive motorcycle at Silverstone for the past couple of years.
So that's its strat then. Okay, cool, fair enough. But
it's always been competitive. You remember a couple of years ago when Maverick was chasing down Bagnaia? Yeah, it was Silverstone. So it's always been a good motorcycle at Silverstone. So I'm not really surprised by that. As you said, Bez was here to pick up the pieces. His first win of the season, his first win for Aprilia. Kudos to him. Let's see if he could continue that momentum, see what he does, if he can take over leadership, really take over leadership of that Aprilia project, and whatever is going on with Martin. Bez just needs to use this time to just establish himself as the guy in Aprilia. Right?
Yeah, sure that. He has to prove that if Martin decides that he wants to jump ship, which I don't think he can, because they pretty much told him, yo, you have a 2-year deal with us, you're going to honor that contract. So, 2027, if Bez can carry on, because he's now in the top half of the championship, if I'm not mistaken. So, let's see what he does going forward. Let's see what he does.
Yeah, he just needs to take this moment. Just needs to take this moment and just make full use of it whilst Martin is out. Make it a situation where when Martin comes back, he's going to have to work for his position. That's what I'm looking at with the whole Bez situation.
Yeah. But does Martin have to work for his position? Because, wouldn't they be given roughly the same spec bike and everything? So Martin would just have to go out there and ride and just prove that, yo, I'm better than him. So
yeah, but when I say that, I mean he just needs to just keep performing, and if he could even stay at Martin, he could turn development in his direction. When I say let him work situation, you know what I'm saying? That's what I'm looking at with that type of situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Fair enough. Because where is he now? He's not in the. Where's he in the standing?
Bezeki?
Yeah.
Bezeki is, where is he at? Let me tell you where is he at. He's 7th. He's now the leading Aprilia.
There you go.
He's right behind Digi and Antonio. Right, he's right behind Digi and Antonio. So yeah, one more to Ayagora, get well soon.
He missed the race, didn't he? Because he had crash, broke. They said he broke what's that? His tibia fracture. So what's the next race after this? What's the next race?
The next race is going to be, I think it's going to be Aragon.
Oh God. That's gonna be a Ducati cakewalk.
Yeah, that's Aragon. So Ayagura, get well soon. Hope to see him back on the grid soon. And one thing, let's look at this thing. Whereas KTM, right, getting a fresh injection of catch.
They've pretty much been bailed out by the Indian automotive what's it called? Baja, BAJAJ, something like 600 million euro investment. So pretty much kind of like they bought KTM, to be honest.
So my whole thing is this, right? KTM, okay, what are they going to do with this money, right?
Well, obviously, the first thing they have to do is just clear all of the debts. Surely the money is going to go towards clearing the debts that they have, the more immediate ones, and then some refinance, restructure and refinance the business and how the business operates, and just make sure that it's a going concern going forward, so they don't spend more than what they have and don't put themselves back in this sort of situation again.
Okay, so let me ask you this, right? So it's because this is my issue with KTM, right? I still believe that KTM is punching above their weight, their financial weight in MotoGP.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think KTM would be better suited in World Superbike, right? Because it's like what everything we know. Prototype racing is super expensive, right? From R&D, everything about it is just like F1 is expensive, which is why a lot of manufacturers shy away from prototype racing. Would you agree? Financial, it's a big financial commitment.
But who are the manufacturers that have shut up? Because I think if you look at it, the only major motorcycle manufacturer that's not in MotoGP right now is Suzuki. Yeah. Honda. You have Honda, Yamaha, Ducati, KTM, Aprilia. Who else are we missing?
There's still the likes of Kawasaki out there.
Yeah, okay, Kawasaki.
Right. You have Kawasaki, and I would agree that BMW.
But here's the difference. Here is BMW doesn't have a history of being in MotoGP or motorbikes. It's only recently they've came into for superbikes.
Hold on. Repeat that.
BMW doesn't have a history in MotoGP.
Neither does KTM.
KTM has a more history in not just MotoGP, but the whole entire, not MotoGP itself, but the whole entire MotoGP umbrella, in the sense that they've had they were there in
you mean like the lower categories?
Yeah, so they have a presence there. BMW has never had that presence at all within the paddock.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't count BMW as one of them. I'm talking about major motorcycle manufacturers, the ones who've been there. So the ones that are literally missing now is Kawasaki and Suzuki. If you look at because let's be honest, the top four major bike manufacturers in the world are Honda, Yamaha, Suzuki, and Kawasaki.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you now, in modern time where it needs money, I would prefer. I guess what I'm saying, BMW probably would have the financial clout to perform in MotoGP and not bankrupt themselves compared to KTM.
Yeah, but did KTM bankrupt themselves for MotoGP based on MotoGP? And if you're going to go, and also you have to remember, World Superbike, it's based on, to enter World Superbike, you have to have a road bike that you have manufactured a certain amount of before you can enter World Superbike.
So you're going to my direction. For the fact that KTM wants to compete in MotoGP, and they don't even have a road going like Superbike, it's crazy to me.
Well, again, it's not a case of they have road going bikes, but that doesn't say they have to have
but just look at it, bro. You could go at a MotoGP race and you could look at a Ducati, even if it's a prototype. You could say, let me go have a V4S. Even in your mind, you're saying, yeah, that looks like a GP bike, right? You could go to the Yamaha store and get an M1 and you say that looks like an R1. You could say that looks like. What does KTM have that someone is going to go watch a race and say, I like that KTM bike? What are they going to go to purchase?
Well, I mean, KTM does somewhat have a super bike.
They don't.
Yeah, they do.
They used to.
Yeah, but okay. They
did in years.
Yeah, but they did. But again, to say they should go again, they don't face the same problem going into World Superbike. It's no different. So it's not like World Superbike is okay. The World Superbike budget is probably maybe 30 or 40% of a MotoGP budget. But I don't see why you say they shouldn't be in MotoGP.
Because of the expense. I don't think KTM, right? Because what I'm looking at, if a company like say Suzuki, right? As you said, it's one of the top four, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if they could say, you know what, let's pack up and leave, even after winning a championship, because of finances. Let's reshuffle some stuff. Maybe they come back, maybe not, because we've seen them come and go. I just always personally think that KTM in prototype racing is just punching above their weight, and it probably put them in where the situation they're in, or helped to put them there. The fact that they're even if it's not that, the fact that they're looking at their books, they must have seen the red flags that there's a money issue. You have no business in MotoGP at that point. Do a Suzuki, go figure it out, get your finances together, and come into the sport healthy. Financially.
But why did Suzuki leave MotoGP?
Because they said when they packed up and left the last time after winning the championship with Mir, I think the COVID thing was taking effect, and they had to look at their finances, and they felt like, you know what, this is no longer financially viable for us. So let's take a step back. Even after winning the championship, if you was gonna ask me, I would have rather Suzuki stuck around having a championship rather than, because the KTM project is a failure.
How? In what sense? How you define failure? Because they've won races, haven't they?
Yeah, but when KTM came in the sport, right? And KTM was a team. When you listen to all, obviously what you offer and what you get is two different things, right? But even though they've won a few races here and there, if you're looking at the KTM project and the way they came in, you'd have classed it as a failure.
I don't think so.
Yes. KTM came in here, probably thought they would have won a championship already.
I don't think that's the case.
Yes, if you follow KTM as a company, bro, you realize that when KTM came to MotoGP, right, they won't think they were going to go like 10 years without winning the championship.
Yeah, but KTM's only been in MotoGP since 2017.
Yeah, so they're 8 years going on. They're 2 years away from 10 years.
But how long did it take Ducati to win the championship?
Huh?
How long did it take Ducati to win the championship?
It took Ducati years.
Okay, so why would it be different for KTM?
Because I always say to you, when you got to go back and listen to when they were coming to MotoGP. If you ask anyone in the MotoGP sphere and they ask KTM project, especially now, it's not like they're making progress. It's a failure. The project is a failure. They're going backwards. I could see, you know where we call it success? If they were edging and closer to the front, right? Every year they're edging. They're going backwards. The project is a failure. KTM, right now, though I see it as no business in motor. They could stay in 125, do their thing down there, but I don't think they have the financial might, bro, to sustain. That's why I asked, what are they going to do with this money? What are their plans? Are we going to find them in the same situation a couple of years from now?
I don't know. I guess no, they'll make better, smarter decisions. And why are we assuming that the issue they have with finances is down to their entrance, them being in MotoGP?
I did not say that. I'm saying to you, if you're a company and you're running a project over here, which is basically a failure, right? You should do a Suzuki and take a step back.
Okay.
Granted, I wouldn't want people to just lose their job. You never want that, right? But I think
what you're basing success on, them winning the championship? Is that the only way?
No, they're making consistent progress towards the front of the grid, which they're not.
I mean, let's be honest. Isn't this probably their worst year so far? Because again, how are they any different to Aprilia?
How are they any different to Aprilia?
Because Aprilia and KTM are pretty much similar sort of company.
But one is not in a financial ruins, bro. That's what I'm talking.
Yeah, again, the point I'm trying to make here is, in terms of company structure, what they sell, etc., KTM and Aprilia are pretty much the same. KTM, would we define the Aprilia project as a failure?
No, because the difference with KTM and the Aprilia, we know what's hampering Aprilia right now, right?
What's that?
The rider, Martin ain't there, right? I'm sure if Martin was there, he's up the grid further than the KTM. So Aprilia is showing consistent push to the front of the grid, right?
No, they're not.
Yes.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
Where did they finish the championship last year?
And the Aprilia project is even way more younger, right? And I'll find out in a sec. As I said, for me, even if you want to go that route, right? Because I'd have to pull that information. Even if you want to go that route, there's one that's in financial ruin and one that isn't. So obviously even if Aprilia isn't where they want to be, right? They're not begging for money, bro.
Yeah, but again, I still don't see the correlation. So what if they're begging for money?
How can you not see a correlation with a company who is operating a certain business, and there was another company who is way more money in Suzuki? But when they realize that, hey, we need to look at these finances, we have to pull this project back, because probably KTM, their MotoGP project, is probably the most important project they got going on, the most expensive project they got going on.
Yeah, naturally, it's the most expensive.
So any company would pull back because now we got a cost save. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So why not pull your MotoGP project? Why not cost save and pull your Moto and go back to the drawing board? Because you could always come back. You could do a Suzuki. You could always come back. But now you're here. Your project is failing, right? The other day they could already pay their staff. People got to get. It's not viable for KTM to be in MotoGP right now. Right. And I'm not even a business, it just makes sense. If you're running a company and it's begging for money and the project that is costing you the more is unsuccessful, you withdraw, bro. Maybe
it's just a case of whoever was in charge, they just didn't plan well. They didn't allocate resources well, and they didn't really monitor the spending and the budgets well. So
the same people are still there. Pit Bryan and them. They're the one that runs KTM. They ain't gone nowhere.
Pit Bryan, what? He's the actual president.
I think he's the main. Yeah, he's the big guy in KTM.
Well, I don't know. To say that, maybe you have a point, but
yeah, it's not.
But either way, okay, they've made some mistakes along the way. They've now find themselves in a situation where they've been rescued. And that's good. That's good for KTM, and that's also good for MotoGP, because you don't want to lose a manufacturer off the grid.
Yeah, and you're right. As I said, I'm not saying that they should, because as I said, I never want to see, because they've got some great riders in your stable, right? And you never want to see it because it just messes with the sport. But if you're moving that emotion of loving the sport out of it and look at it from a business standpoint and the situation they're in, you got to pull the project that's costing you the most money. If you're out here begging for money.
Fair enough, but like I said,
because that's no longer. Guess what? The Honda motorcycle is coming really good, right?
Yeah,
that would be great for those great slot. Honda could provide 2 more motorcycles, right? Maybe Yamaha could produce 2 more, or Aprilia could produce 2 more to another team.
I don't think Yamaha are giving any more bikes out. They're just going with the 4 bikes.
No, so even if KTM was to find himself the Maverick, the Acostas, the Bastianinis, and was the Maverick, Acosta, Bastianini. KTM, Brad Binder, yeah. They'll be all right, because there's a lot of riders that are on great motorcycles that, let's face it, ain't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we're gonna wrap on that. Yeah, it was a good weekend of racing in the United Kingdom. The Moto2 race was good.
Good if it depends on who you're rooting for. If you're rooting for Bez, definitely a good race weekend. If you're rooting for the likes of Bez, Mark, and Alex, good weekend. But if you're a Pecco or a Fabio fan, no, it was terrible.
If you're a race fan, it's a good race weekend. If you're a race fan, it was a good weekend of racing. You talk about Moto2 was a dogfight. David Alonso is finally coming to the fore.
Well, he's got 3rd. I mean, Aaron, can it cost him that win, to be honest, and cost himself a podium? Right.
So David Alonso, he's finally figuring it out, because I told you he had some injuries coming into the season. That's why he wasn't performing up to his optimum level. Right. So I think he's fully fit now. He's arrived. He's doing his thing, and Jose Antonio Rueda becomes the third rider in Moto3 to win from the back of the grid.
Yep, I mean, I watched that race, and he shouldn't have won that race, to be honest. Because what's that boy's name? What's his name? The one that Mark
Timokilas?
Man, yeah, because he should have won that race. Because didn't he finish second?
Finish second. Experience.
Yeah, experience.
Third race.
Raider showed him his experience and just let him run wide, and basically did the undercut and just.
He's the third person to do that in Moto3 history. You know what the other two?
Mark did it. I know someone else did it. Someone else did it.
Mark didn't ride Moto3.
Yeah, but Mark did it Mark rode 125.
125, yeah.
Yeah, but he did it. Mark said, because there was a clip Mark talking about, and he said he did it.
Yeah, if they had said
he did
category, yeah, but they said Moto3 specifically. There's only 3 riders.
6 doesn't though. So Mark did it in in 125. Shit. I watched that race.
And Mark also told you it wasn't a full grid. So he even said that he was like, yeah, most of them crashed out. The other two is Brad Binder and Pedro Acosta. When Pedro actually won from the pit lane.
Yeah. I remember that race.
Yeah.
That was in Moto3.
Yeah, so it was a good weekend. It was a good race weekend. The Moto3 race was good. Moto2, which is usually boring, was actually great. It was a dog fight, so I enjoyed that one. And then MotoGP just threw the chaos with the red flag. The Marquez brothers crashing out. No luck to getting all the luck, and Pecco losing and Fabio losing all the luck. Like, it was just one of them crazy weekends.
And I think the happiest person leaving that weekend is Mark.
Of course.
Because all of that happened to him, and he increased his lead in the championship.
Yeah, to 72 points now.
Well, that's over Pecco, but over Alex, it's now 24.
24, he came in at 19?
Yeah, because he finished, third? Where did Alex finish?
Alex finished fifth. Yeah, at Morbidelli. So it was Mark, Morbidelli, Alex.
Yeah, finished fifth.
So bad.
So, and again, it's probably the worst weekend for Ducati, because let's be honest, I didn't think any team was going to beat them.
They almost lost the streak of podiums. They lost the streak of wins in Le Mans. They almost lost the streak of podiums. Mark salvaged that. Well, Morbidelli, one of them would end up. If Fabio didn't crash, it would have ended the streak.
Yeah, it would have definitely ended the streak. So
yeah.
But when's the next? You said the next race is in Aragon in what?
Aragon.
In next weekend.
No.
Next weekend, the 6th to the 8th of June. Yeah, that's probably going to be another. That's probably going to be a Mark win, because he won there last year, didn't he?
Yep, but you also have to throw in a wild card in.
Who?
His brother. He goes well at Aragon too.
Yeah, but
he goes well. And as I said, now we're seeing the fact that he beat his brother on pure pace, even though it was a sprint. He's getting more confident. What I'm seeing, the more he's at the front, the more confident he's getting. I think he's starting to believe, right, that I can do this. Even if at the end he falls short, even it doesn't matter if they're brothers. You and I are brothers, right? But if we're competing, I'm gonna be like, I'm so okay, cool. You're gonna have belief, right? Even if I'm the dominant one, you're gonna have belief. You're not just here to be like, okay, I'm gonna let my brother win his 9th championship. What? So I think the more Alex stays at the front, he's getting more confident. His confidence is building. It's building. Now that he beat Mark on straight raw pace in the sprint, now in his mind he's like, well, he crashed out in Spain. Now his goal is probably, I'm gonna try and beat you over a full race distance on a raw pace. So he's getting more confident. So let's see how that works out. So yeah, you got to put him in the mix in Aragon, because he goes well at Aragon. He put the Honda on the podium in Aragon.
Fair enough, but I think it's probably going to be another Ducati whitewash anyway.
Yeah, so let's see. But yeah.
But I know it's going to be difficult for Fabio, because that long straight, that back straight for the Yamaha is going to be like, it's going to be like, yeah, that Yama is like a asthmatic on that straight, man, just grasping for air, struggling to breathe on that straight.
You gotta enter that. You gotta enter that straight 3 seconds ahead after Ducatis, bro.
Yeah, 3 seconds. I don't even think that's even a big enough lead for him on that straight. But I want to see what he's gonna do next weekend. I want to see if he can actually, let's see if the run continues, or see if these were just 3 favorable tracks for the Yamaha. But I expect a resurgent Mark and Ducati next weekend, because Mark's only missed the podium once.
When he's finished the race?
When he's finished the race, once.
Where was it?
Yeah. Where did he crash off? And
Spain.
Jerez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's see what we got going on. We still got some race. Got a lot of season to go.
Yeah, I mean, what is it? How many races they have this year? 22 races. So we have what? 9? Was it 5? Was it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? So we still have 15 more races to go. It should be. It will be fun. Hopefully, I want to say, hopefully Pecco can find some confidence in that Ducati, which probably going to be difficult for him to do, and show a little bit more than what he's showing, because I think Pecco is definitely better than what we're seeing right now. And I wanted. Look, I'm not really a Pecco fan, that, but I try and be as objective as I possibly can at times, and I think Pecco deserves some respect, and I don't think people respect him, gives him the respect that I think he deserves, because they felt like his success on that Ducati wasn't I'd say it wasn't earned. I'd say they felt like because he had the best bike, it was like given to him or something, but he still had to go out there and ride it. He helped develop that Ducati to where it is now. So, give him some respect, man. It's kind of like the situation with Max Verstappen. You don't have to be a fan of him to give him a bit of respect.
Yeah, Max is a bit different to Pecco.
Yeah, but same difference in the sense that you don't have to be a fan of somebody to actually give them a bit of respect and recognize that, you know what? Yeah.
People respect Pecco. It's just that there's just certain things, right? Whereas like you're just like, well, he's a 2-time, but it's like he's not up here, he's down here with certain other riders, right? I think that's just what and look, which makes sense.
He's not an alien, but
there's only one. There's not a lot of those out there.
Yeah, exactly. He's not an alien, but he's not a bad rider.
It is. Yeah, there's not a lot of those out here. There's not a lot of aliens.
So give him some respect.
All the aliens, there's only one living alien, right? But let's see
one
if we get
active alien.
One active alien, I should say, right? Yeah. And yeah, but Pecco, it's just that I know why people are looking at him, But as I said, I'm not surprised, because there's only probably less than 1% of riders who could do the stuff that the aliens do, right? Mm-hmm. And not even all the aliens could do it, right? When you talk about riders who can ride around certain problems, there's probably 3.
Name them.
In the modern era. Since Valentine, I'm not even going back all the way to doing in them. It's probably only 3.
Mark, Casey, and Oz.
And I'm still.
I'm not going to put Lorenzo in that.
I struggle to put Rossi in it too.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of struggle to put him in it, but maybe he makes that list.
The fact here's why Rossi makes that list easily. Rossi jumped off the championship winning RC211V. Went over to Yamaha's first year, won back-to-back championships.
Yeah, but you still got to remember that Yamaha wasn't a bad bike. It's just that Biaggi just wasn't good enough to put him to a championship.
I don't know.
Same situation with Dovizioso. Because if you talk about the Ducati, Dovizioso is the one that brought the Ducati to where it's at. Pecco just brought it over the hill.
Fair enough.
Because we've seen this situation where you have a good motor, but they just don't have the rider to make that final step. Dovi did the donkey work. Pecco brought it to the championship, right? And Max Biaggi was on the Yamaha before Valley, right?
Max Biaggi and I believe Marco Melandri as well.
Right. So Yamaha had a good motorcycle. They just didn't have the riders to, and then Valley came with his talent and just push it over the hump, right?
Him and Jeremy Burgess.
Yeah. So it's just. But hey, before we go, shout out to Johan Zarco, man, is sitting 5th in the championship.
Yep, on a Honda.
Shout out to Johan Zarco.
On a satellite Honda at that.
So
a satellite.
Yeah. Let's not do that.
What? It's a satellite Honda.
The Honda that Johan Zarco, the Honda that Johan Zarco is currently on is the equivalent of the Ducati that Martin won championship on.
Whatever.
Yeah, full spec, full support. That's what Johan Zarco is on. So
but
he's doing his thing.
So if you had a choice between Johan Zarco or Joan Mir, who are you taking?
Between Johan Zarco and Joan Mir? I'll probably take Joan Mir.
Okay.
Just for his upside.
Okay. Cool.
Right, I'll probably say him, but is Johan Zarco doing a phenomenal?
Johan Zarco is doing the best. He's the best. He's the best Honda rider.
You realize he picked up 45 out of 50 points over the past 2 races, right?
2 races. Yeah.
He's there. And he's only a point. He's only a point behind Franco Morbidelli.
Yeah, and right. Frank is on the all-conquering Ducatis.
And 27 points behind Pecco.
What's he on? He's on 99. Pecco is on what?
124. Who are you talking about?
Zarco's
on 97.
97, yeah.
Pecco on 124.
If Pecco crashes again, man. If Pecco crashes again next year, but I ain't praying for that. Pecco would be all right.
Yeah,
but anyway.
Pecco. The thing is, all right, Pecco job right now, if he can't figure out the motorcycle to get it to where it could be super, Pecco job is to at least stay in the top 3.
He's going to stay in the top 3.
Right. That's his job, to stay in the top 3.
The only way he doesn't stay in the top 3 is unless he crashes. So.
All right. Well, yeah.
And again, remember I said to you, the only way Marquez loses this championship is if he crashes. How many races has he? He's crashed. He crashed in Jerez. So he's crashed at Porto, crashed in Jerez, crashed on Sunday here, got lucky to get back in the race. And we're seeing him now crashing in practice sessions as well.
Yeah, because
just saying.
Because the thing is, from what I'm hearing from the pros who are in the paddock, is that the problem he's facing is, even Pecco got their own issues, right? Is that he's not getting any warning. He doesn't know where the limit of the Ducati is still yet, and also, I mean,
if you're crashing off it, should that not tell you where the limit is?
Right. No, because with Honda, you used to get warnings. That's why I used to be able to save these crazy saves, right? The Ducati doesn't give that warning, because from what I'm understanding is that the Ducati, it has to be ridden in a certain way. And the moment you deviate from how the Ducati is supposed to be ridden and go back in his Honda habits, that's when he's probably likely going to bin it. Because they said the Ducati should be ridden in a certain way, whereas like you gotta keep it in that window. The moment you decide you're going to ride a Ducati on Ducati like, you're going to find yourself in problems.
Okay, then. So if the Ducati has to be ridden in a certain way, so then the issues Pecco are having, there you go. That means Pecco can't ride that bike in the way it should be ridden because of the issues he's currently experiencing.
Yeah, no one is not saying that, but ultimately you still got to find a way to ride around some aspects of it.
Yeah,
and I think that's where the longer this goes on, is the more you're gonna hear his stock price get called into question.
Well,
right.
Let's wait and see.
That I think that's what's going to affect him the most. His stock price is going to get called into consideration because it's always going to be, well, you couldn't ride a bike that isn't perfect. You know that saying, right?
Yeah, well, again, but if Ducati, if people are saying the Ducati has to be ridden in a specific way, that means the Ducati has to be perfect,
right? But his teammate is proving otherwise.
So his teammate is able to ride it in the way it's supposed to be ridden, but Pecco can't because
on the GP25.
Yeah, on the GP25
supposed to be ridden.
Yeah, but Pecco can't because obviously there's issues there that
and you know the fact that because you hear the talk around is that he's around some aspects of it.
Yeah,
and I think that's where the longer this goes on, is the more you're gonna hear his stock price get called into question.
Well,
right.
Let's wait and see.
That I think that's what's gonna affect him the most. His stock price is gonna get called into consideration because it's always gonna be, well, you couldn't ride a bike that isn't perfect. You know that saying, right?
Yeah, well, again, but if Ducati, if people are saying the Ducati has to be ridden in a specific way, that means the Ducati has to be perfect,
right? But his teammate is proving otherwise.
So his teammate is able to ride it in the way it's supposed to be ridden, but Pecco can't
on the GP25.
Yeah, on the GP25
supposed to be ridden.
Yeah, but Pecco can't because obviously there's issues there that
and you know the fact that because you hear the talk around is that he's been on the Ducati forever, this, that, and the third. But as I said, I'm not surprised by none of this because, as I said, I don't expect. Mark is a once in a generation type of talent, so I'm not expecting Pecco to do what Mark does on a motorcycle.
Yeah,
and I think Pecco knows that. I think Pecco knows that hey, I'm not at Mark's talent level, but I am talented, right? And I think it's just people outside noise is trying to make it seem like Pecco is that level. You know what I'm saying? And then that's where the noise comes in. Because Pecco knows. He knows that he's not at that level.
I don't think people outside have ever put Pecco and Mark in the same category. I don't
Trust me, people that dislike Mark does.
Yeah, well,
and that's where you get the issue. If you're really just like a true racing fan, despite who you support, and you could say, hey, this is the level, right? This is my guy, but I know he's not as good as that guy, right? Just like Alex Marquez. You know, I've always rated Alex Marquez highly, but I could admit that he's not at the talent of, say, a naturally talented rider as a Fabio Quartararo. I could say that loud, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, another episode of the Grand Prix Project, Grand Prix of the United Kingdom.
The British Grand Prix. I don't know to come up with this nonsense, but the Grand Prix of the United Kingdom.
Bezzecchi took the win. Heartbreak for Fabio Quattararo, Francesco Bagnaia, and all the luck went in the basket of the Marquez brothers. Is that a fair assessment?
Yep. Unlucky to my guy, rider of the weekend, star of the weekend, champion of the weekend, Fabio Quattararo. We will be back. El Diablo will rise again. And I swear to you, when El Diablo gets that bike right, your boy Mark is in trouble.
Probably over qualifying, but not over a race.
Over a race. Once El Diablo gets that bike, your boy is in trouble. That's all I'm going to say. That's how I'm going to end it.
But they operate in two different playing fields, bro.
Like I said,
let's stop.
Once El Diablo gets the bike, because El Diablo was spanking him this weekend. And,
you know what we talk about every time I say we're going to wrap? It's funny you said that, right? You remember what we were talking about in F2 hours? The timing's got to be right.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing in MotoGP. We almost didn't get Fabio Quartararo. Crazy.
Well, we have him now, so
yeah,
it is what it is.
That trust me, that Bosca, if he didn't perform that race that he won, that's what signed him. That's what got him to MotoGP. Right, well, so you know he's here. As I said, the timing was right, and Luca Bosca and them, you know, put him on, and he's here now, one-time champion, and which is he truly deserved, because the way he came into Grand Prix racing, it would have been a waste if he never won a championship. Fabio Quartararo. So he's here. Right.
He's here and he's here to stay. And he's going to give your boy problems once we get the
best rider on the grid. We could all agree to that. Even above Martin. Even when Martin is fit. So, yeah, let's wrap on that. Once again, this has been the Grand Prix Project Podcast. What Grand Prix is it, bro?
British Grand Prix. I'm not in that nonsense about the Grand Prix of the United Kingdom. The Kingdom. Bro, it's the British Grand Prix.
The Tissot Grand Prix of the United Kingdom. That's the official name, sir. Okay, so yeah. Once again, thank you guys for listening. This is a long one, right? It was a lot to cover over the whole weekend. So, yeah, you want to follow us? You can follow us at the GP Project Pod and X, aka Twitter, aka X, right? You could go follow us on Instagram, right? Our Instagram is the Grand Prix Project Podcast. We also have a secondary account, which is the Grand Prix Project Pod, right? So you could go follow us in there. You could like, subscribe, give us your opinion. We're always open for engagement, always open for conversation when it comes onto this motorsport thing, right? This is what we do. This is what we love. We've been watching motorsports from early 90s?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I started 95 is when I started. 94, 95. The first two names that I ever heard in motorsport, both MotoGP. The first name that I heard in F1, the two first names I heard in F1 was Schumacher and Damon Hill. And the first name I ever heard in MotoGP when I switched my TV on that Saturday afternoon was Mick Doohan. And I never looked back.
I don't even know where mine started. But either way, I'm here. I got in and I'm here and I'm a lifer.
Yep. So that's what we do. So yeah, please follow us on YouTube. It's going to be the Grand Prix Project Podcast, right? So you could check us out on YouTube. We steadily releasing some videos and clips and all that, shorts on YouTube. So we'd appreciate your views. Subscribe, like.
All feedback are welcome. Be it good or bad, we'll take it on board because it's the only way we're going to improve.
All right. So we'll discuss next time the Pekka Bagnaia Ducati exit rumors. There's some rumors out here, but we'll discuss that. All right. So this has been the Grand Prix Project Podcast. Thank y'all.
Thank you for listening to the Grand Prix Project Podcast.